Okay, so hi everybody, and welcome back to the band with 𝒕�𝒎𝒂𝒏𝒅. And of course, I'm with my good friend James Corbett. How you doing, James?
I am doing well, and I come prepared.
Yeah, I'm loving the touch. I'm loving the Meet the Beatles T-shirt.
Or the Beat the Beatles. Cool. Oh, no.
Beat the Beatles.
Actually, I'm wearing it today because this is not my only Beatles-related podcast I'm going to be on today. Shameless plug. I'm going to be recording Anthony Rotuno's Glass Onion podcast, which I think is still the only John Lennon specific podcast. We're going to be talking about the U.S. versus John Lennon, both the documentary and the subject. So I'm looking forward to that. So I thought I should probably wear this today.
That's great, man. I look forward to that. I really do. I look forward to that. Yeah, great. And it's good to see you kind of venturing out into different territory aside from, the work that you do. And by the way, on a side note, if you could catch James's most recent New World Next Week, it is fabulous. Just hits the nail right on the head. But anyway, I've got good news for all of you out there. I've got some really good news. What we need right now is a drum roll and then a cymbal crash. Insert here. The news is this. She loves you. Isn't that great? Yeah.
I'm feeling it.
Yeah. So speaking of I think this was the song that actually started the whole yeah craze going. I mean, they used a lot in their early music. But this was the one where, people used it as a motto, like, yeah, it's the Beatles, right? And which I was thinking about this. It's so funny because when Lennon left the Beatles and was a little bit more bitter and a little older and more mature, he started singing "Oh No" a lot. So we went from yeah to no.
Ah, good insight. I never thought of that. Yeah. Yeah, he became Ono. John Ono Lennon. Right.
John "Oh No" Lennon. And they purposely put, "Oh No" in a lot of his songs as an homage to his wife.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what? I wonder if he ever wrote a song for May Pang. I wonder if he ever wrote a song for her.
I have a feeling that one of the songs was probably I'm sure I've heard something about that, but I won't say it without knowing the details. But I'm sure I'm sure some of the songs are probably better.
Hey, if any of you Beatles fans out there know if John wrote a song for May Pang, let us know. Maybe Matt Williamson would know.
Or Anthony Rotuno.
Yeah. All right.
Absolutely. I'll ask him.
We'll find out. That'll be the cliffhanger for this episode.
And we'll definitely remember for next time, right, Vinny?
Right. So we're talking about, of course, She Loves You. And James, do you have any kind of historical vibe going on with this?
Yeah, all right. So just to set the table, a few different entrees to this. One, with regards to the yeah, I think it's quite famous that Paul talks about the story of having written this with John and then going to demonstrate it to his father. And his father says, "Oh, it's quite good, but couldn't you say yes, yes, yes?" Which doesn't seem like it would have caught on quite as much. But yeah, it's interesting because I'm sure that the story that I've heard that Paul tells is, they wrote it in the living room and then went and got his father and then demonstrated to him right there. But apparently, the story is that they wrote this in a hotel room in Turk's Hotel in Newcastle prior to the Beatles' second performance at the city's Majestic Ballroom, which is interesting because Newcastle is where my parents are from. So I don't think they even ever knew that little tidbit. But this is the song that I believe I've told before. My father was at a swimming pool in Canberra, Australia, in 1963, and they were just playing music on the the speaker system, and this song came on, and everyone stopped because they just never heard anything like this before. Like, what did we just hear? What is this? And I don't know. I wasn't there, but the Beatles Bible says this is the song with which Beatlemania truly began, and this is the one that launched them for sure in England. I mean, obviously they were already taking off, but this is the one that cemented it. This isn't just a one-hit wonder. This is a new force of nature. I believe the story is that a few days after this song came out, at some, football game or other, some big stadium, the entire crowd is chanting, "She loves you." It's,
Wow.
So it caught on immediately. It was a huge thing. It was what really broke them, big time in the UK for sure. I mean, obviously they'd already had a #1 hit, but this was something else entirely. And I will just insert this as an entree to the musical conversation from Revolution in the Head. The opening lines follow speech inflections and stay within the compass of their chords, obviously Lennon's work. What changes them, making a straightforward sequence surprising, is McCartney's harmony. Already maturing, the partnership writing formula can be heard here as the dual expression of Lennon's downbeat cynicism and McCartney's get-up-and-go optimism. Much of the pair's musical originality derived from their self-taught willingness to let their fingers discover chord sequences by exploring the architecture of their guitars, rather than following orthodox progressions. Yet these choices were driven by the harmonies they used, and these arguably reflected the contrast of their temperaments. Even at this stage, their relationship could be acerbic, and they were capable of bickering vitriolically in public, though under this lay an enduring emotional bond and a steady respect for each other's talent and intelligence, which overrode their disagreements. Like all lasting music, the Beatles' best work is as much the expression of a state of mind as a construction in sound, and in She Loves You, Lennon and McCartney can be heard fusing their different outlooks in musical form. The result is an authentic distillation of the atmosphere of that time, and one of the most explosive pop records ever made. Which is quite a heady look at this song. I don't think I would have necessarily thought that, but it's an interesting take on it.
There's something about, I've read that. I read about the yes, 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 which to me is hilarious. He said, why do you have to stick to those Americanisms? Why not say yes, yes, yes? It's like, Paul is like, no, you don't get it. I guess, yeah, it was an Americanism. I never knew that at the time, but yeah, I suppose so. But as far as that goes, the immediate sense I get was that, and it's been written about, that was the song that started Beatlemania rolling. And you know what? You can feel it. You can hear it. It's just so bristling with excitement and energy. It really is. While the actual chord progressions are not terribly amazing or anything like that, the ingenuity they use with this song is right up there with Beatles, brilliance. So, yeah. An odd thing too, by the way, is I read that thing about the hotel in Newcastle, but the first article I had come on, I don't know if it was come upon, I'm not sure if it was the Beatles Bible, some other Beatles website. I had read that they started writing the song in a tour bus.
I think, there was an earlier iteration of something where they were... So Beatles Bible, McCartney's original idea was to have a call and response song with him singing the title line and the others answering with yeah, yeah, yeah. Lennon, however, persuaded him otherwise. Quote from Paul McCartney from the anthology, "John and I wrote She Loves You together. There was a Bobby Rydell song, Forget Him, out at the time, and as often happens, you think of one song when you write another. We were in a van up in Newcastle. I'd planned an answering song where a couple of us would sing She Loves You and the other one answers, yeah, yeah, yeah. We decided that was a crummy idea as it was, but at least we then had the idea for a song called She Loves You, so we sat in the hotel bedroom for a few hours and wrote it."
Yeah, there you go. So the seed was planted, but they didn't take it seriously until they started working it. Yeah, yeah. And the whole She Loves You thing, I remember, again, as a kid, that I thought it was odd. It was like, wow, that's a different way of writing a lyric, So yeah. Explosive song, just right out of the gate, explosive.
Which is another part of this we should mention. That was, I'm not sure if that was George Martin's idea, but starting with the chorus. And that, I don't know if it was completely unique or the first time ever, but it was a very original idea, and it certainly adds to the explosive power of the song, right?
Yeah, and as I go through the form, I want to mention this chorus idea. because the Beatles, again, especially in those days, were so aware of hooking the listener, you know, letting them know what the title of the song is. So when you look at a verse, there's kind of a sub-chorus at the end of every verse. I didn't separate it out as a B section on my chart. I just called the whole thing A. But the verse kind of contains an A and a B in a sense, an A section and a B section. You know, yeah. So she loves you, and you know. So immediately we're getting the foreshadowing of the hook. And then when we do get to the hook, it's like, it's so huge in comparison to that section that it just makes the song blossom. Really, really nice. And by the way, I want to make a side mention of Ringo's work in this. It really great work. He does some work like, you know, that bop, 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 right? That's a slow triplet. And he gets a slow triplet in one of the sections. I forget where. But also, toward the end of the song, when they play the chorus, he changes the whole vibe by just banging on the floor toms, or just the tom-toms. And it just changes the whole feeling of it in that moment. Just, you know, there are a few drummers I refer to as orchestral drummers, meaning that they're not just holding a beat, but they're aware of the sound around them, and they react to the sound around them. My buddy Hank is that way as a drummer, and among the famous ones, I would say Stuart Copeland from the Police was that kind of drummer as well. Just not just holding a beat, but really being part of the music itself, you know. So, yeah. So there are a few little aspects of the song I'd like to get into with the music theory. I guess let me do a screen share of the form first, and then I'll lay up the chart. What we're going to do as a new tradition is play Follow the Bouncing Cursive. So at that point, James, I'll cue you to play the cover version of the song, because we got to avoid copyright yada. So, all right, so look how simple this is. Got an intro, got the first verse. Thank you, lost your love was all yes, I do. She loves you, and no, that can't be bad. She loves you, and you know you should be glad. Woo! Next verse. Da 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 da. So you could feel like when you know the song, you could feel the missing chorus there. It's almost like they're keeping you in suspense, you know. And here the B section, she loves you, yeah, 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 she loves you, yeah. Then another verse, da 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 da, and that jumps right into the coda, which is a pretty extensive coda. All right, so if you see this coda right here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Well, that's doubled too. So this is quite a long section for the ending of the song. But what it's inclusive of is the actual chorus. But there's some cool things that happen with this song. So first, let's play the Follow the Bouncing Cursor. I'll lead you all through this. And by the way, James, side note, before we even begin, I want to, first of all, we see DS al coda. DS means to the sign, signo, S-I-G-N-O. A lot of the musical terminology comes from my progeny roots of Italian. For some reason, a lot of the terms default to Italian. There's some German terms, some French, but it's 90, the lion's share is Italian stuff. Anyway, DS, so this is a sign as best I could make it in my program, in my drawing program. So what we're going to do, like, this may be confusing. So if we go through the song, we see a repeat sign here. So we're going to get here and repeat again. So that means 2x. But here it says third time to coda. Wait a second, we only repeated it twice, so what's going on? Okay, so let me explain this. So a sign is a jump. That's another term they use in music. It's a jump, you're jumping somewhere. So when we get here, it's telling us to go to the sign, and then when we're directed, we go to the coda. So we jump to the sign, after we've gone through all this, right, we jump to the sign, come through, and it says third time coda. So now this will have been the third time, and we jump to all of this, and we come to the end of our song. All right. Now you're going to see other symbols here. There is what's called a fermata. And a fermata means you hold the time and let it float for a second. So with a, you know you should. And then a tempo means you come back into time again. All right. Fine, right? Sounds like you're pissed off that the song has ended. Fine. And let me see one other thing. Oh, this here, right? Retardando. All right, means slow down here. It slows down a little bit, and then we get that. Right. So there's that, and there's another term I'm going to be using that isn't on the chart. It has to do with the melody, appoggiatura. And what that is when you have a note and you tie a little bow around it with a grace note. Okay, and the Beatles were really known for this sort of thing. They constantly tied little bows around their final note of a phrase. So given all that, why don't you go ahead and play the cover track, and I'll lead us through the chart.
Okay, and I should make note, as always, this is Paul Moody 25, so
Thank you,
full
James.
credit to him.
Yeah, full credit to Paul Moody.
She loves you, yeah, yeah, yeah. She loves you, yeah, yeah, yeah. She loves you, yeah, 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 yeah. You think you've lost your love? Well, I saw her yesterday. It's you she's thinking of, and she told me what to say. She says she loves you, and you know that can't be bad. Yes, she loves you, and you know you should be glad. She said you hurt her so, she almost lost her mind. But now she says she knows you're not the hurting kind. She says she loves you, and you know that can't be bad. Yeah, she loves you, and you know you should be glad. Ooh, she loves you, yeah, yeah, yeah. She loves you, yeah, yeah, yeah. With a love like that, you know you should be glad. You know it's up to you. I think it's only fair. Pride can hurt you too. Apologize to her, because she loves you, and you know that can be bad. Yes, she loves you, and you know you should be glad. Ooh, she loves you, yeah, yeah, yeah. She loves you, yeah, yeah, yeah. But with a love like that, you know you should be glad. With a love like that, you know you should be glad. With a love like that, you know you should be glad. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Okay, so the first time you get in the coda to that C minor, or the first two times, I guess, it emphasizes it, but it doesn't break the beat. It's still the same. The beat continues. The tempo is the same. But then when you get to the
Retardando.
it actually goes, it loses the tempo, right? It's out. There is
He didn't really. That's one thing that they didn't do well. That if you listen to the Beatles version, it really does slow down. You could really hear it. They kind of kept the beat.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering, because I've never noticed that consciously. Never. I mean, obviously you feel it, you know it, but here's a stupid question that I shouldn't be asking as a professional musician myself. But how do the Beatles keep together when they slow down and then hold it for a... I mean, there's no beat behind it. How do they know when to come back in?
Yeah, yeah. Great question. And there's it's part of the magic of playing in an ensemble. There's kind of like sympathetic vibration between musicians that are truly spiritually locked in together, and there's a question of eye contact that happens in a band. Like for example, my band Blue Kind has a song. Let me see if I could. Uh, it's kind of grooving along. This is the bridge. And then bam, back into the song, right? Tempo.
Yep. Yep.
There were a couple of times in rehearsal that section sounded like a complete train wreck. Granted, you know, but when we're locked in, we do this on purpose because the song is called Engine Number 9, so we're purposely creating a train wreck there. I mean, that was our intention, but it had to be a controlled train wreck.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Right.
That's the difficulty, isn't it?
Yeah. And let me see. There's another instance in my band. I forget the song now, but there's this accent that I have to hit with the drummer, and I purposely like look over his way to make sure that my accent and his are locked in. You know.
No, now that you say that, it actually does remind me. In our band, there's a song Reborn where going into the bridge, we've got to slow down to a different tempo, and so yeah, we just have to turn together and just physically lock eyes, and yeah.
You know, this reminds me of a story in college. We had to take 32 bars of the song Satin Doll and write it for jazz orchestra. So it was, you know, saxes and trombones and everything. And I decided to be tricky. I was going to take 8 of those, or 16, maybe I forget, 8 or 16 of those bars to do a rubato intro. Here's another term. Rubato means no time. You just kind of like, if I were to play Moon River and in rubato, it'd be like. The time could sway and mess around, right? So when we were done with our projects, we had to conduct the orchestra, right? And I get up there and I'm trying to like do this, like, you have to go 1, 2, 3, 4 when you conduct. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. But when you have rubato, I'm trying to do this rubato thing, right? And it just sounded like this. It was weird, like. And I looked at my teacher like, "What's going on?" He goes, "Look, when you try to do rubato, what you do is do real time, but do real time slowly." So he said, you know, just da 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 da. Da 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 da, and it was supposed to accelerate. Da 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 da, da 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 da, da da da, da da da. So as soon as he showed me that, I was able to control the orchestra. But it was hilarious. It was just. It sounded like a bunch of melting instruments.
Well, now that I think about it, perhaps the Beatles were particularly well suited for this because, of course, at least by the time Beatlemania kicked off, and they have this wall of sound coming at them, and they can barely hear themselves at all. And as Ringo says, he just had to look at, you know, John and Paul's wiggling ass to figure out what part of the song they're at and just try to maintain the beat. So they're not used to necessarily always hearing. Just they have to know where they are and sort of sense that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. There's that moment in Anthology where they were talking about how kind of annoyed they were with all the noise and how they couldn't function as a band. And then they shoot to a clip of them playing, and Ringo has this frown on his face, like, I hate doing this, you know? Really kind of sad.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay, so let's look at the song. When I play the song, when I've went at the yeah part, I take an E minor and I go. So. Right? But I watched Paul Moody doing it, and he did this weird move, and then I watched Harrison do it, and he did the same move. So I figured Paul Moody must have studied the thing closely. And what I saw on the neck was this. Now, you tell me if this sounds right. I'm looking at it, I'm going, what the hell is that? Well, it took me a while to figure out that Moody was using his pinky over here, and he was using his ring finger to mute the string. So with that, it's like this. It's funny, though, like George had this way of, kind of like in my band, there are two guitar players. So I try to do something to offset, you know, what the other guitar player is doing. Do something different than him, a different inversion, play higher up when he's low or play lower when he's higher up. And that kind of, I think that was George's propensity, but that whole could have just been done just as easily as that, like without having to move, you know. So, but that was his choice. Also, now there are little moments, slight little bluesy moments, like on the intro and the connecting piece between which is total Chuck Berry stuff right there. It's just done in a low register, but harmony and fourths, right? So there's that little blues moment, right? Has a bit of a hollow sound because of the way it's harmonized, but there's definitely the, all right, so we're going to get another hint later on in the vocal, a little interesting moment. So, oh, one thing I want to remark here. Instead of a 2/5, that's a 3/5. And the Beatles apparently were very fond of that, especially in the early days. All right? 2/5 would have been totally expected. Now listen, when you put the B minor there, it adds a whole different flair to it, you know? So there's that. All right, so moving on with the song. She's a G. Oh, by the way, a little point I want to make. In my audiation, my inner musical imagination, there's a term, right? When the melody goes, when you think of the pentatonic scale, that's the minor root. So whenever I did the song, I thought it went not to the G chord, but to the E minor. She said, she loves you, you know that can't be. But then I had hell finding, well, what's the next chord? What's the next chord? But it's a G chord, da, 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 da. Then it goes to E minor. Now, it goes, there's another innovation there. There are two chords that are outside of the key of this song. Oh, do you have an idea?
Well, that was exactly, I mean, I know one of them anyway, because we're in G, presumably, right? So what's C minor doing there?
What's C minor doing there? The other one is A major, which is not in the key of G.
Oh, right, yeah. Is it A major or A7?
It could be either. I want to address that point too. You know, there are people who say, well, John didn't play that chord, but I watch the Beatles very closely. Whenever John hits the D, he does his usual weird, you know, obtuse fingering of the D chord like that. I like to, if I'm going to do that, I do it like that with a bar. It's just easier. But you watch George and he's playing this, which is totally D7. So I could have written D7 into the chart, except it's not as pronounced. You know, this is a little darker sounding. This is brighter, right? So there's that. Now, because A major would be A7, all right? Why did you ask if it was A7, by the way, just out of curiosity? Were you thinking it was a secondary dominant? Hopefully.
I wasn't thinking that far ahead, but yes, that's what I was thinking. Exactly.
Yeah. Maybe your intuition was leading you there. It loves you, yeah. A7. She loves you, yeah. Perfectly fine. All right. But when I watched the band, they were playing major bar chords. All right. There again is the case where a major chord is functioning as a secondary dominant, except it really isn't too, because we go from, and if it was functioning as secondary dominant, it'd go to D. But instead, it goes to C. Right? Yeah, so
That's got to be parallel relative.
No.
Now. Oh, well, okay.
Not even close, James. Sorry.
Ah. All right.
If anything, the C minor, you could relate to the parallel relative. If I'm right about that, G goes to G minor, goes to B flat, and C minor is the 2 chord B flat. Yeah. So the C minor could be, but we're going to talk about it. It's not, I mean, you know, I think parallel relative is all over music, and people are calling these things different things. Like in college, we were taught 4 minor. We'll talk about the C minor in a moment. We were taught 4 minor, and we'll get into that. And you'll recognize some of the things when I start talking about it. You will. But here we have an E minor root for a moment. So we're going to assume, see, in the key of G, both its relative minor, E minor, and G major are equally strong. All right, you could take a song like Little Wing by Jimi Hendrix, and it's hard to tell if it's G major or E minor. Listen to it closely, because sometimes it sounds major, you know. E minor, G major. Now it sounds minor here, right?
Yeah.
Now listen to this. It could be major, right?
Yeah.
So that because both chords are so strong within a key, when you do that, it's sometimes hard to distinguish which is the root chord. Okay. Now, again, that's why I say E minor is a temporary root chord in this key for the moment. So we have, if we look at it, we have E minor. Let's say A7 because that'll help us along, and then C. All right, this is something I call mixing modes, okay? The earmark of Dorian is a minor chord going up a perfect fourth to a dominant 7th chord, so that would be E minor to A7. That's Dorian. A lot of Santana songs are built around that. You gotta change your evil ways, right? All right, but then we go to the C, all right? Well, E minor in relation to C becomes E Aeolian. So we go from E Dorian to E Aeolian in that moment. And that's a perfectly allowable thing to do. It does cool stuff, like it creates lines. If I had done an E minor 7 going to an A, going to a C, and then back to E minor, I get this. So that's mixing modes, okay? All right, so there's that. Then we have the, all right, so let's talk about the C minor, just jump to it. Just that is a nice, again, subtle. And we keep saying, you know, it's those subtle little things that the Beatles stick in there that make the stuff so great. Could have been a C major. If they were lazy, they would have played C major, right? So she loves you, and you know I can. That would have been perfectly fine.
Yeah,
right?
Why not? Who would think to not do that, right?
But what the C minor does, if it is parallel relative something going on, right? that means the switched key would be B flat. All right, from the key of G major, B flat would be the switched key. And, well, the first note of B flat major is B flat. And guess what? When we do, the C minor comes up in a few sections. Let me just check my chart real quick because, and this, in the chorus, it goes, you know, you should be glad, you know you should be glad. Now, it sounds weird when I apply it as part of the chord, but that's exactly what John is singing. Now, and Paul harmonizes, so it comes out as, and there you can hear the parallel relative switch, minor, major, right? But what is that B flat in relation to the key of G? Blues. And that was the whole thrust of my original lectures on the Beatles, was like, this moment's blues, this moment's European. So we get like two little bluesy moments in the that, and it's very, very subtle. It's just a brush stroke, you know. But
and that relates to the C minor, is what you're saying.
That relates to the C minor because it's suggestive of the key of the switch key of B flat. The B flat note now sounds appropriate.
Right, because that would be the 2 minor in B flat.
Yeah, listen, if we had played formally the scale, right? That could possibly work because it's a minor major 7. That's a very
I mean, it's not dissonant, but it's dorky.
Yeah, it's not quite as cool as the. Yeah. That's kind of a cool little. Yeah, so that's a cool little thing there. So there's that. And now, you know, one thing I do want to mention is, remember that whole thing with the pre-chorus kind of chorus and then the actual chorus, right? At the end of the song, they do something that they don't do throughout any of the rest of the song. Let me, again, we start the song, basically it's reminiscent of the intro. The ending is reminiscent of the intro. You know, and all that. But at the end, she loves you, yeah. They play it, instead of singing on an E minor, suddenly they're singing on it, she loves you, yeah, yeah. She loves you, yeah, yeah, yeah. She loves you, yeah, 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 right? They kind of had to do that, but and for that to have worked. Because they had to sing that a certain amount of repetitions, and they needed the G there to support that. That's the only place where they sing that melody against the G chord, you know. So there's a little variance on things going on in the song, really interesting variance. And like I said, the C minor pops up on 2 different occasions, if I'm not mistaken. Let me see, like the verse. Da, 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 da. And actually, let's see what would happen if we replaced that with a more standard C major in that particular section. We did it with the other one before. So let's go. It sounds okay, right? But it's, again, that adds a really nice flavor to it. And that's the Beatles for you. Like, always restless. Like, well, yeah, we could play a C, but let's try the C minor, see what it does. You know? So, yeah. So great work. I don't think there's much to talk about regarding lyrics with this thing. It's just a straight-on pop song. I mean, you know, it's cool that they changed the person, you know, like what do you call it? What's the word in grammar for that? First, second, third person, whatever.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I don't want to comment on the sixth harmony, the G6.
I was about to go there,
Okay.
yeah. First of all, you could really hear the collaboration of John and Paul because they were singing the melody in unison, right? Loves you, yeah, yeah, yeah. Think you lost your love. So the melody, but Paul goes up and John goes down, so you get, right? And there's your appoggiatura, the bow trying to, I saw her yesterday, right? They could have sang, I saw her yesterday, right? They could have done that. But that's so Beatles. That's, you know, it really is so Beatles, those little flares they put on melodic. And they're oddball ones. They're not, saw her yesterday. I mean, they could have done that. I saw her yesterday.
Yeah.
That's a whole step. It's a scale step, but it gives it a whole other thing. You know, it's just...
Yeah, Ian MacDonald writes about that, too, in Revolution in the Head. The contour of the melodic line fits the feeling and rhythm of the words perfectly, and where it doesn't, the singers make a virtue out of it by altering their inflection. For example, the cajoling emphasis of apologize to her.
Right, exactly, yeah. Very signature. That is so signature Beatles right there. It truly is. Yeah, so... And so they're singing unison and split off at the very end. And I don't remember where it was, but I believe it shows up in a different placement in the song. It's kind of like, loves you, and you know that can't be, loves you, you know that can't be bad. John goes down, and Paul stays up. So, no, that can't be bad. No, that can't be bad. So you get that fifth harmony. In that case, the other one created a third, by the way. It's a little bit more sing-songy. But the hollow fifth harmony is also very evocative of Beatles. They did those odd little interval jumps in chords and stuff like that. And I think that's because they were very aware of the chord they were on and how the melody would sit on it. You know, and the harmony would sit on it. A lot of musicians are lazy because you could get away with singing in thirds all day long on any melody, pretty much. You know, no matter how the chords flow through, you could get away with that. That's what makes the Beatles' attention to detail so important. Is that they didn't want to just harmonize in thirds; they wanted to pay homage to the chord that they were on and change the harmony melody to sit with the chord.
Speaking of which, from the Beatles Bible, they were especially proud of the final chord, which was previously undiscovered territory for them. As producer George Martin explained to Beatles historian Mark Lewison, I was sitting in my usual place on a high stool in Studio 2 when John and Paul first ran through the songs, George joining in on the choruses. I thought it was great, but was intrigued by the final chord, an odd sort of major sixth, with George doing the sixth and John and Paul the third and fifths, like a Glenn Miller arrangement. They were saying, it's a great chord, nobody's ever heard of it before.
Yeah.
Of course, I knew that wasn't quite true.
Yeah, that wasn't quite true. The Andrews Sisters did it. You know, there are a lot of 40s vocal groups did that interval. But the thing about it is, singing a third is easy because of the virtue of the temperament of our scale. You can waver a little bit on that third. It doesn't have to be a perfect third, like spot on. There's a little room. The third is always like that. That's where the blue note comes in. It's like, you can kind of cajole this note a little bit. But a second, you have to be spot on. Now that is what's being sung. You're hearing this, the ending chord. Right? This interval would help if my guitar was.
Yeah, you can hear it.
To sing a whole step like that is very hard. It really is very hard to do. It doesn't flow as naturally as thirds or even fifths will. I remember I was in a band in the 80s that was like, it was a kind of a new wave, alternative band, and very heady group of people, like really intense musicians, very intense musicians. And the other guitar player was brilliant dude, as you can only find in some deep, dark corner of New York City. These guys, just like amazing musicians there. But I remember there was one point in the song where we wanted, we just came across this moment, and it was like we had to come up with a whole step harmony, like we were forced to. And the guitar player was so enthusiastic about it. Yeah, let's harmonize like that. It sounds really cool. And obviously it does. It sounds great. That ending is so good. It really is. It's very strong. And it gives character to the ending chord.
Absolutely. It's a sound that stays with you even after it fades out.
Yeah. So that's She Loves You. It's pure awesome.
Awesome. Hey, and we did it in 50 minutes.
50?
Yeah. All right. Or maybe less, actually. Woo.
We get a bona fide union break.
All right. Oh.
All right.
Well, we should check what the next choices are for our next edition. Good point. Good point. Okay, so the next one is I Want to Hold Your Hand / This Boy. How could you go wrong with either one?
Yeah, wow. Okay, we'll see what happens. We'll see we're gonna choose this behind closed doors and surprise you. And again, if you haven't been following, what we're doing right now is we're starting with the earliest singles and just following through chronologically until we get to what was their last single? Was it
Real Love, Babies, and Real Love, right? No, I don't think that counts, right? What's their last real one? The Long and Winding Road for You, Blue.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's appropriate to me. At least Long and Winding Road is just a goodbye song.
I look forward to that because I'm not a fan of that song, but I'd be interested to see if you can change me on that.
Yeah, I like the song. I think it's really beautiful. I mean, it's Paul being a bit maudlin too. I mean, there's that. Yeah.
Schmaltzy. I don't get it, but you can tell me why it's brilliant. I appreciate that.
Yeah, as I'm running it through my head,
we'll get there eventually. Don't worry, we'll get there.
Yeah, we'll get there. Yeah.
You turned me around on For Martha, My Dear. That's what it's called.
Martha, My Dear.
I never ever liked that song, but now I listen to the piano and I'm like, that was pretty good.
It's pretty amazing. Yeah, I remember those early Beatles videos I was doing before you. I actually learned how to play that piano part on guitar. I can't believe I went through that trouble. I can't remember it now, but yeah. Yeah. All right, cool, James. So I guess we'll see all. You could wait on what our choice is going to be between This Boy and I Want to Hold Your Hand. In a way, I'm hoping it's not I Want to Hold Your Hand because of that intro. That always drives me mad. But
But
Right.
we could nail it down for once and for all.
But at least it'll be a talking point too, you know. So there'll be that. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see though. Might turn out to be this boy.
Stay tuned, dear listeners.
Stay tuned. All right, everybody. Well, thanks for joining us tonight, and we'll see you again next time. James, great seeing you again and working with you on this as usual.
Thank you.
And I'll see you all again. Take care.